This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Did you see what was thrown from the balcony? Was it a can or something?
Was it? Yeah, I knew something was coming. I wasn't sure what was it, a sack of money or what.
Yeah, it was pretty much right in front of Jakob's shoes, actually. Landed damn near in front of his shoes and bounced off. I was, it was a beer can or something. That's just not cool.
Coach apologized. Coach Stevens apologized on behalf of the.
Oh yeah. I mean, it happens. You know, those are fans. You know, you can't control what they're going to do. Just thank God that nothing happens to none of us and none of the players. Just when he's playing down the hill and he's aggressive and he's being who we know who DeMar DeRozan is, man, we're a hell of a team. And not only that, but we have him. We also have LA, LaMarcus Aldridge, who is doing a lot more than he did previously when it comes to shooting the three and knocking down a lot of shots. So we have a lot of great players. And when he gets going, you know, he kind of gets everyone else going. He's the head of the snake of this team. And, you know, I'm more than grateful to have him on this team.
We just sticking with it. You know, it sucks when you hit adversity, but adversity also could make you as well. You know, we've been optimistic and looking at the brighter side of understanding. You know, tough times are just gonna make you tougher in the long run. You know, we sticking through and playing against two of the best teams in this league showed us that we could compete with anybody.
What is up, Spurs Nation? Cállate la boca, shut up, because you are listening to a Bucking Spurs podcast brought to you by buckingspurs.com and the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. I'm Robert Trejo Jr., your host of ABSP. Like the great GOAT, Coach Pop, would say, we're all about players who are over themselves and are about team success, as are we here at ABSP. So follow in the footsteps that the greatest big three to ever do it have laid down for us, otherwise known as the Spurs way. Be a true team player and subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast jam on. Get me open and nail that game-winning jumper by down screening on your phone now. And just like the Spurs with 5 golden trophies in that trophy case, rate this podcast 5 golden stars. The beautiful game that we all know and love can only manifest itself by collective effort of sharing that rock. So don't be a pod hog and share this podcast episode to the rest of Spurs Nation. You can do that by following us on YouTube for more Spurs content like drive-through Spurs takes and Spurs tacos and more. Of course, you can share and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. If you want to make the first team all BSP, go ahead and bookmark buckingspurs.com on your web browser now, where you can show your support and visit our fan shop for Bucking Spurs hoodies, tees, laptop sleeves, iPhone cases, and more. Big win versus Boston. Big win. Matter of fact, last year around this same time, right before New Year's, we played Boston, and that was a huge turnaround game for us in that season. That was Derek White's breakout game. That was a game where we had 46 points in a quarter, and we kind of started turning it around at that point. So it's kind of ironic to see that might be the same case for us this year. A lot of similar circumstances in that way. So we came off a big win against Milwaukee. We played tough tonight. We're going to talk all about the game. You know, I'm also going to talk about that idiot who threw a beer at our bench that got sick him. See, if Keldon was there, Keldon probably would have jumped in the stands and gave him a 1-2 or something. No, I'm just playing. But we'll talk about that idiot. And we're going to talk a lot about Spurs basketball. All that and more. But first, shout out to Eric for giving me the new beat package. You can find him on Twitter at Eric Gloom, Glom. Now let's do it.
confidence. I want some nasty.
You know what? Like, what a disgrace. What a disgrace from that one guy who throws a beer and has to ruin everyone's night and has to ruin, everyone's momentum. That, I mean, at that point in the game, man, there's so much going on that, it takes an idiot drunk person to be that arrogant and that foolish and that unappreciative of the circumstance of what you're about to do. Throwing a beer can at our bench. I know what everyone was thinking as soon as that happened was, oh my God, please, nobody do anything else. Like no fans get onto the floor, no players go up to the stands, and we're not Ron Artest, and we're not Steven Jackson, and we're not, those guys. We know better than just to go and run, up into the stands and go start a fight. But crap, dude, that's how that shit gets started. That's how that stuff gets started, because these players, yeah, they're playing basketball. They're getting paid millions of dollars, and it's hard to feel sorry for them. They lose a basketball game. Oh, boo-hoo. You're still getting paid millions of dollars. You got to go home, with your bank account fat as hell. But when it comes to stuff like this, it's like, hey, man, I do feel bad, because it doesn't matter what your job is or how much you're getting paid to do it. If you feel like you're in danger, or you feel like someone's out there trying to get you, or someone does some bullshit like that, I mean, it's going to put you on edge. It doesn't matter who you are. You know what I mean? When you look at the tape, that it looks like a beer can, because it lands and it kind of explodes a little bit, and then beer starts flying everywhere, and then the can starts rolling out into the middle of the floor. And this is all during this fiasco of Kemba Walker getting ejected from the game. And we're gonna talk a little bit more about the actual play that and what the impact was from this little fiasco that happened when it comes to basketball. We're going to talk a little bit about that, when we get into the third quarter a little bit later on in the pod. But, it takes someone was just a little bit too drunk, a little bit too tipsy, a little bit too bold, I would think, and as the game went on, I mean, or as that moment went on, and all of a sudden, we think we're dealing with this issue of Kemba Walker being ejected, and we think it's all about basketball, and then this happens, and you just see the whole entire Spurs bench turn around. You see the coaching staff turn around. You see the fans that are sitting right behind the bench turn around. And I looked back at it a bunch of times to say, okay, can I see who did it, right? Can I see where this thing came from the camera view that we got? And when they showed the replay, you can't. The bottle comes almost straight down, like if it came from up top, like if someone from like 2 or 3, like sections up, just launched a beer can, and that thing had some momentum, because when you saw that thing hit the ground, that thing exploded. It wasn't like it was just tossed down there. No, that thing had already some velocity behind it, and gravity was pulling that thing from a high point of projectile launch, right? So boom, so as soon as that thing hits the floor, boom, it explodes, and it lands literally like 2 or 3 feet in front of Jakob's shoes, and Drew Ebanks was right there next to him too. And those guys just turn around, and actually, who the first guy to get off the bench was to turn around and was like, what the fuck, was DeJounte Murray. And you know what? I'm not surprised when I go back and look at that footage, and DeJounte's the one that gets up first and looks back like, what the fuck's going on, or who did that? It doesn't surprise me, because DeJounte's tough as fuck. DeJounte's a guy that you want going into a fight. Like if you were to go up to anyone in that locker room and you're like, hey man, like some shit's gonna go down, don't ask no questions, I just need you to back me up, the one who's probably gonna be like, all right, let's go, it's probably DeJounte. You know what I mean? DeJounte's ready. DeJounte doesn't take no crap from no one in real life or on social media, and to that point, so he got up first and he was looking back like, what the hell's going on? And man, just what a terrible moment for the NBA. What a terrible moment for Boston fans. And I think that for the most part, the Boston fans were pretty good. You know what I mean? They were getting rowdy. You can see it, behind them, behind the benches and stuff like that. Those fans, Boston fans are special, man. Boston fans, those y'all know who y'all are. Y'all know how to do things the right way and the wrong way, and when it's time to start kind of creeping over to doing things the wrong way, getting a little bit ugly as a fan base and stuff like that, but all in support of the Celtics, right? So they're veteran, you know, they're the Boston Celtics. You know, the Spurs fans have been there too, just as long as they have. But I think for the most part, the Boston fans were like looking back like, who the fuck did that? You know what I mean? Like, 'cause I think for the most part, they were getting angry. They were like, who the hell threw that thing? You know, like, where's that coming from? I can just picture it. You know, I can just picture all the guys in the stands and whatever, just looking back, like saying like, hey, you schmuck, who threw the beer? You know, like, hey, get that guy out of here, that fucking schmuck, making us all look bad in here. You know what I mean? Like, we're making us, you know, like, I can tell that shit too. I hope they found the guy. Actually, I'm recording this segment of the podcast a little bit. I'm gonna go in a little while and I'm gonna scour Twitter and see if I can find who it was, or if someone was talking shit. You know, maybe there was a Boston fan there who got on Twitter and found out who it was. Anyways, but you know, that guy, you know, they found him. You know that he's gonna be suspended from NBA games indefinitely and things like that, because that's just something you don't do, especially after the Malice in the Palace. And you know, like, come on, man. Like, yeah, Kemba Walker took a hard screen. I'm gonna talk about it a little bit later. It didn't seem that hard to me. It seemed more of like a flop job that didn't get sold to the refs, and he kind of got up and threw a little temper tantrum, and then the game fell apart. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But come on, man, we're all fans here. We all go to the game. We all want to have a good time. They tell you in the beginning of the game, you know, how to act right and make sure that, you know, you're being respectful to our team and to other teams and to officials and things like that. So you get warned before every game. You know, there's an announcement. And this guy, whoever decided to throw this beer can, had a little bit too many beers already and was a little bit too bold, right? But hey, man, that's Boston tough, right? Those guys, they don't take no shit. So, you know, it's an unfortunate situation. And like Lonnie said in the beginning of the episode, I'm just happy that no one got hurt and that no one got suspended and that no one rushed or whatever, and that it didn't pile on, in a sense. You know, like, I feel like things could have went south quick, but we know our Spurs. I mean, we're Spurs Nation. We know we're not going to do anything. We know we're better coached than that. We're better people than that. I think that's, you know, when it comes to talking about San Antonio Spurs players, we get players that are good people. You know what I mean? And we're not going to go out and get players that are at risk of, you know, being that guy that's gonna go and go into the stands or talk shit to the stands or whatever, do something like that. We don't have any of those dudes on our team. You know, we almost had Marcus Morris. Marcus Morris would have been the exception to that rule in many ways, right? In many Spurs ways, you know. So at the end of the day, no one got hurt, and honestly, it drug out this delay of game a little bit too long. And I think that, you know, it hurt the Celtics even more than Kemba Walker, you know, exiting the game, because it's not like they didn't have anyone else in that game. But, you know, Kemba Walker leaving is huge, but they were on a run. They were on a tear. They had cut it to 6-7 points at that point, and this kind of deflated the team, but deflated the stands too. You know, like the crowd was kind of not in shock, but kind of in disappointment and kind of ashamed of you know, the other fan that's in there. It's like their parent. They were all like parents, and that was that kid who, you know, accidentally, you know, brought, you know, he got caught at school with all these pills and drugs or whatever, and they, you know, now the parents have to deal with that shit, you know. So it was kind of like that in the vibe in the arena, because that was midway through the third quarter, and after that it was pretty much over. So that guy's an idiot. I got super pissed off in the moment because, I mean, he threw a beer at our guys, man. I mean, like, just like I said earlier in a fight, man, when someone throws a beer at your boys, you know, it's go time. It's go time. It's ready to step up, and it's ready to get rowdy, and this thing isn't going to end well. You know, it doesn't matter how it's not going to end well. And when that happened, I just, you know, we're all trying to figure out the Kemba thing, and then this happened, and we're like, oh shit, something else happened. And then the broadcast showed, you know, the replay of the beer landing and everyone's expressions, and everyone was worried, and Coach Stevens did come out, and just like it was mentioned in the clip earlier on in the episode, Brad Stevens came out and he apologized, you know, to us and to our organization, because, you know, Stevens and Pop, Coach Stevens and Coach Pop are boys. You know, those guys learn from each other. Pop said that he's a real big admirer of Stevens as a coach, and we all know everyone's an admirer of Coach Pop as a coach. And Stevens, you know, is a hell of a coach. He's an X's and O's guy. You know, just like Pop is. You know, so it was unfortunate. Luckily, it didn't end in anything drastic, and we can move on from this, and it doesn't seem like it's all over the news, and maybe I'm just not keeping a close eye on it, but fuck that guy, right? Spurs Nation, pinche huerco, este loco, este menso allá arriba in the fucking thing, throwing a beer, stay away. Okay, so I'm back, and it's about 8 hours after I last recorded that first part right now, and I told you I was gonna go look into who that guy was, and well, I wasn't the only one who had that idea. And then Bleacher Report came out with their alert on it on my phone. I got it, and I was like, okay, well, now everyone knows. If everyone didn't know, I think everyone knew though. So according to WCV Boston, this fan was arrested. His name was Justin Arnold. He's a 22-year-old kid, right? So he got charged with disturbing a public assembly. Okay, but he was released, right? He got released today, but this dude had broke his probation, you know? So he was already on probation. He got on probation in 2018 for assault and battery, right? On a police officer. Oh snap, back in 2018. So this guy's 22 years old, and it seems like he had a couple wild years back in his 1920 or something like that. When he was like 19, 20 years old, he got in trouble with the law, so he ended up being stayed. He got held there at the jail because he was on probation. So what a guy, this guy, Justin Arnold. Okay, this was a statement that the Boston Celtics put out. Quote, last night, after throwing a can onto the court during a Celtics game, a guest was ejected from TD Garden. The guest was arrested by Boston police and is currently facing criminal charges. This act is a serious violation of our guest code and conduct. As a result, the guest will be banned from all future events at TD Garden for life. Oh, damn. So not just for NBA games and Boston games, but that guy can't go to TD Garden for life. So you can't go to a concert. You can't do anything like that. You know what? Good. Fuck this guy. You know, it just that's what he deserves. That's what he deserves. And that's all I have to say about that.
Hi, I'm Brad.
This is Rob.
And I'm Dustin.
You guys, I messed up.
I hate him so much, Rob.
Kill yourself already. Jeez.
Oh, we can't use this one. Because you dropped the F-bomb and you told him to kill himself.
Oh, did I say something wrong?
Only on Big Heads Media.
Yes! Nailed it!
God, I hate you guys.
All right, so let's talk about this game. All right, this game versus Boston. I think right off the bat, the first thing that needs to be mentioned is that the starters are playing a lot better. They're grooving, they're moving, they're shooting well. LaMarcus and DeMar DeRozan are shooting more threes. And I don't think just the uptick in threes is the reason why we're playing better, why that starting unit is playing better. Does it have something to deal with it? Yes, of course. It kind of directly involves the reason why I think we're playing better, and that's just because we're playing faster. And, you know, when you look at LaMarcus Aldridge, yeah, he's shooting more threes, but he's not shooting threes in transition. He's not making the game speed up or anything. He's getting his three-point shots usually in a half-court set. You know what I mean? So it's just instead of him shooting the mid-range, he's stepping a little bit further out and shooting the three-pointer. We're not really asking him to change his game and run more, be more, have more speed behind him or whatever. No, DeMar DeRozan is shooting a few more threes too, but we're just playing a lot faster. We're just picking up the tempo on the offensive end. That is directly transferring over to our defense. We're playing defense a lot faster. We are playing more transition defense in a game than we are in a half-court defense, and that's really helping us out, because in a half-court defense we are having a lot of trouble staying in front of people. And when we get into half-court sets, I think our help rotations are getting better, but our one-on-one defense still has a little bit ways to go where we can defend without fouling at a high level, right? But we start out this game hot. We shoot 30 plus threes a game now. I guess that's the thing for the last 5 games. So this game tonight, we dropped 29 we didn't drop, but we shot 29 threes against the Celtics tonight. So we're right on par with that number there. And that's the number that's I know that the uptick in threes is not just coming from LaMarcus and DeMar. We're all shooting more threes. Trey Lyles is shooting more threes. Derek White is shooting more threes. Lonnie Walker is getting minutes, and we all know he can do it all. He can shoot the three, the mid-range game. He has crazy athleticism when he attacks the rim. He can do it all. So everyone is shooting more, all right? So Trey Lyles is shooting more. Bryn is kind of still just being Bryn, having efficient nights, and then other nights having nights where you don't even really know he's in the game. So I feel like Bryn is putting in the work, and it's all a matter of time. There's going to be a stretch in this season where Bryn's just going to be on fire. I mean, he's still one of our best 3-point shooters. So we got to swallow that pill and be able to live with that. But we start off hot in this game as well. We start off 4 for 5. It's 8-0 at one point, and we're doing a good job on defense, man. We're closing out hard to shooters at the 3-point line, chasing them off the 3-point line, and forcing them into tough shots, because like I said earlier, our help defense has been there on these rotations. So we're forcing teams into tough shots. Now, these are tough players, so they make tough shots, but tonight, Boston could not hit tough shots at all. I mean, they really couldn't put the ball in the hole, and I think that's really why we were able to dominate the way we did. It wasn't because of anything we were doing special. We were just being a good competitive team. The reason why this game separated itself so early and stayed that way pretty much the whole game was because Boston just couldn't put the ball in the hole. Let's just be real and call it for what it is. Now, we can still say, yeah, we improved and we did a lot of things the right way tonight, but is that the real reason why we won this game? No, it's because Boston couldn't score, else it would have been a very, very different game down the stretch. Not saying we wouldn't have won, but it definitely would have been a different game. Halfway through the first quarter, about 4 minutes left to go, Derek White, Patty Mills, and Rudy Gay are going to come into the game, and the bench just picks up where the starters left off, man. Derek White scores, Rudy Gay hits a bucket, Patty Mills, Jakob Poeltl gets a rebound, puts it back, and then finally towards the end of the quarter, Lonnie Walker comes in for DeMar DeRozan, and then at the very end of the quarter, Jakob comes in for LaMarcus. Actually, LaMarcus played a lot in this first quarter. He logged in 11 minutes out of the 12. He played a lot tonight. As we continue going on to the second quarter, at this point, the Spurs are up, 34-22. When we have a 22-point quarter on the defensive end, we are doing something right. So 34 points, that's not bad. That's not too shabby for us this season. Yeah, we want to average. That's where we want to be on average, right? So as we go into the second quarter, we're starting off the quarter with our bench unit, and Lonnie Walker just goes to town. There's something I want to talk about before I start talking about his offense, and that's just that his defense has drastically improved. He seems a lot more active off the ball than he used to be. He used to be a guy that kind of just stands there and watches the play happen when he's not directly involved in it on the defensive end. And he's just a lot more active now. I feel like he's talking more. He's starting to rotate faster. And we're lucky, when Lonnie has a good defensive possession and he's able to get that rebound and just go to coast to coast and just try to beat everybody down the floor. That's when us, sitting in the stands and watching from wherever we're watching might be in for a little show, because Lonnie can make some highlight reels every night. So Lonnie Walker scores 12 points in the quarter. He only misses one shot. He misses 1 3. He starts off hitting his first 3 shots. Boom, boom. The 3-pointer gets fouled, hits 2 free throws, and then misses a third one, 3 ball before he gets checked out of the game. But we know this isn't going to last forever. We expected Boston to kind of have a run eventually and come around and start being competitive again. And they did. They did here in the second quarter. They started hitting some shots here and there. But I think we did a good job in the second quarter not turning the ball over and limiting Boston to one shot. You know, we didn't give up many offensive rebounds in this game, and that ultimately led to us being able to keep our lead, because that's a quick way to blow a lead if you have it, is start giving up offensive rebounds, giving the other team 2 or 3 shots and putting the ball in the hole. That's a quick way to give up a game right there. DeJounte Murray is kind of hesitant to score with the first group, and I'm telling you that this is probably for a very, very good reason. I think DeJounte Murray is starting to figure out that he can easily make everybody around him better, and I know he knows this already because he speaks on it all the time, that's his job, that's always his job. But I think it's now time of the season where he's starting to implement those efforts, right, and that focus, because I think the first maybe 15 or 20 games of the season, he was getting his legs under him. He just wanted to make sure that he wasn't going to get hurt again, and you know, at some point, I know he says that he's not scared, he's not afraid, because he doesn't play that way, and you can tell he's not. I mean, from the get-go, he was just doing things with his body that I was more nervous probably than he was, but you can also tell that fatigue hit him a little bit in early on in the season. He kind of slowed down a little while, and I think it right now, what the thing is that's really making this starting unit better, besides everything that we spoke on earlier, is that DeJounte is really trying to find ways to make players better, and he is. He's finding Bryn and Trey Lyles more often in transition or off rotations, and he's very effective at getting DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge the ball where they want the ball, right? So he's doing a lot of things now to make everyone else better. And when he's scoring 10, 12 points a game, you know, maybe averaging 3 to 5 assists, getting maybe 6 or 7 rebounds, I think that might be the recipe to make that unit work, you know, versus him kind of trying to get his own, which he does not do. He's never done. But we all want him to shoot more. We want him to be more aggressive on the offensive end. And I think he's picking his spots, you know, pretty smart. And, you know, you got to give it to him there, because you got to give it to Derek White and you got to give it to DeJounte Murray, because they're a big part of why we've been competitive as of late. At the end of this quarter, you know, we're up 65-47, right? So we had a pretty good second quarter as well. We scored 34 in the first quarter, 31 in the second quarter, and we held them again to 25 points. So a great first half for us, a great first half in San Antonio. Okay, I mean for San Antonio. And we're gonna get into this wild third quarter and talk a little bit about what was going on in the game when homeboy Kevin Arnold or whatever decides to throw either a beer bottle or a ginger ale bottle or whatever they drink over there in Boston at our guys on the Spurs bench. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get right back after the break.
Yo, it's Noah Alvarez with the My Mike and I podcast. Have you ever listened to your favorite sports podcast and wish they talked about the hottest movies? You ever wish your favorite conspiracy podcast also featured young, up-and-coming artists? Or how about a lifestyle podcast that also has former and current athletes share their success stories? Well, look no further than the My Mike and I podcast, where on any given week, I have different guests on my show and we chat about a wide variety of different topics. Need inspiration? We got it. Want to know what growing up in a Latino household is like? We got that too. Want to know how to successfully enjoy an EDM festival? Best believe we got you covered. My goal as a host is to find as many genuinely good people and have them on the show to educate my listeners and challenge the way they think about different topics. My Mike and I is available on Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, and don't forget to check us out on the Big Heads Podcast Network. Happy listening, y'all.
We're coming into the third quarter with an 18-point lead, probably the biggest lead coming into a third quarter that we've had all season. I don't think we've played this well up to this point. You know, we're putting away a very good team at the moment in Boston, a team that really just can't hit shots, and we're taking advantage of it. So we are doing the right thing. You got to understand that, yeah, Boston didn't hit shots, but we still have to do our job. You know what I mean? The Spurs still have to play and dominate and take advantage of opportunities and push the ball and shoot with confidence, to do all these things to take advantage of it, because this is the NBA, right? 20-point leads disappear in a matter of minutes, right? So you have to keep on playing. And sure enough, Boston comes out in this third quarter and they come out and they start hitting early, actually, right? They start getting a lot of open shots and they start knocking them down. But the thing is, meanwhile, while all this is going on, who is here for San Antonio and continues his and builds on his brilliant first half performance? That's DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan has himself a quarter here in the third quarter, going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 points in the third quarter for DeMar, right? But hang on tight, because the Spurs are still fighting here. Boston is still giving up, everything that they can throw at us right now. So let's just fast forward just a little bit. 2 or 3 minutes into the quarter, right? We started off with an 18-point lead. By 8 minutes, it was cut down to 14, right? Boston's just playing with a little bit more pace, a little bit more confidence. A lot of these guys on the Boston team I've never even heard of before start hitting shots out of nowhere. And there was a few times where Gordon Hayward, gets a little bit too smart with us, and he hits us with a couple backdoor actions, right? Actually twice in this third quarter, early on in the third quarter, and about the 7:30 minute mark, Bryn exits the game because Bryn is the one that got backdoored twice. So he gave up 2 backdoors and Pop pulled him out. So, hey, that's Pop being hard on his guys. Like, hey, you're going to get beat backdoor twice without communicating or fixing the issue. We'll give you 1, but you do it again, you have to come sit down. You have to come sit next to me. We got to talk about it, right? So Patty Mills comes in for Bryn Forbes a little bit earlier than normal, than we probably would have liked and Pop would have liked, right? An 18-point lead really quick disappears, and it gets, like I said, cut down to 14. And then about 6 minutes left in the quarter, we are actually down to 7. That's because we started turning over the ball. We had 4 or 5 turnovers in this quarter alone, and we gave them shots to get back in the game, and they were taking advantage of it. They were creeping their way back into this game, and just when they thought that everything was going right, all hell breaks loose, right? It all goes down on a hard screen, good screen by LaMarcus Aldridge, and an even better flop by Kemba Walker. I'm sorry. When Kemba Walker took that hit, I was like, ooh. In real time, it's like, ooh. When you go back and look at the replay, LaMarcus didn't extend his arm or whatever until Kemba was on the floor. You know what I mean? So I think Kemba Walker was just mad that he didn't get the call, to be honest, because he goes up to the ref, right after the play ends, because actually, he gets hit by this hard screen. Derek White gets fouled. They call a foul on Theus, for reaching in on Derek White, let alone, and then at the same time, Kemba Walker's faking a concussion right now. It goes up to the official, gets in his face, starts, he has some choice words for him, so he gets hit with a T, okay, but then he stays where he's at, doesn't really approach the ref, but kind of like stiffens up, like flexes up a little bit and says one more thing to that ref, and that ref was like, no sir. So he teed him up again, and he was out of the game, right? 6 minutes to go, or 3 or 4, 4 or 5 minutes to go in the third quarter. They had just come back, cut an 18-point lead down to 7 or 6, and it was just, oh my god, dude, this is the worst thing that could happen to Boston. So you thought. So the coach got hit up with a tech too, meanwhile. So right after the tech, right after Kemba Walker gets hit with a technical foul, this is where a fan, Mr. Kevin Arnold, decides to throw his drink at our Spurs bench. I've talked already about how I feel about all that, so I'm going to keep going, right? But the thing I want to talk about is that this technical foul issue and then the fan throwing the beer or whatever onto the floor really stunted this momentum that Boston had built over the past like 6 or 7 minutes or so, because everything was going their way. But this kind of stretched out, for about 10 minutes or so while they were dealing with all this. So everything that transpired led to 4 free throws for San Antonio. And quickly the lead was cut down to 7 or 6, against Boston. It quickly went right back up to 10 points. And we end this quarter 99-83. We actually lose this quarter 32-36, right? So that's not really where we want to be. We scored where we want to be, but we went from holding them to 20 some points a quarter to now 36. They were close to a 40 piece. We got to be a little bit better than that. But DeMar DeRozan had a great quarter. Patty Mills hit a couple big shots in this quarter. Derek White hit some clutch free throws. And Bryn Forbes actually stepped up too in this one. He had 5 points in the quarter. But Lonnie really didn't get much tick in this third quarter because DeMar went off. And DeMar really didn't get subbed out until about like a minute left to go in this third quarter. So here we go, moving on to the fourth. We kept them at bay in the fourth, and we did that with the weapon of Lonnie Walker, right? Lonnie Walker had himself a second quarter, and he had himself a fourth quarter. Lonnie has 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11 points in the fourth quarter. He just dominated. DeMar DeRozan kept doing what he was doing. He had 5 more in the quarter and just had himself a great night, man. Poor Rudy, though. Poor Rudy, man. Rudy was a turnover machine tonight. Lonnie put the exclamation point on this game. Boston cleared their bench with about 5 minutes to go, and the Spurs kind of left our guys in there for a few minutes and then subbed in Drew Eubanks, Marco Bellinelli, and DeMar Carroll with about 2 minutes left. So they got to get a little bit of tick, and that was good. But we ended up, with the final of 129-114, right? At the end of the day, this is what it all chalks up to. We played better. We did not turn over the ball that much. You know what I mean? We just got good shots. We pushed the ball on offense. LaMarcus Aldridge played 31 minutes, right? He played a lot tonight. He had somewhat of an off game, you would say, if you were just looking at the stat sheet and saw that he played 31 minutes and only scored 13 points on 5-11 from the field and 1 for 5 from the 3-point line, where he had been shooting so well from the 3-point line before. This is his first off game probably since he started shooting threes, right? So he also had 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 blocks. And when you look back at the tape, you can see how effective he was in this game. He really did impact the game. He made everyone else better. The shots that he did hit were huge, and so LaMarcus played huge for us tonight. DeMar DeRozan logged in 34 minutes with a team-high 34 minutes, team-high 30 points. He was 10 for 17 from the field. He only shot 1 3, didn't knock it down. 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal. He did have 4 turnovers, but you can live with that because he gave you a hell of a night. Third leading scorer, Lonnie Walker, baby. Lonnie Walker had 19 points in 19 minutes, right? 7 for 11 from the field. He was getting to the rim. He hit like 2 or 3 mid-range jumpers in a row. And then by the end of the game, he's just stroking 3-pointers on you, man. This guy's sick. He was 2 for 5 from the 3-point line. 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 turnover. Derek White and Bryn Forbes chipped in with 15 apiece, both playing great. DeJounte Murray, 10 points. Jakob Poeltl with a game-high 8 rebounds. The team shot 29 threes, like we mentioned earlier. The big stat for me tonight was we had 28 assists to our 14 turnovers, right? That's a good ratio. It's double, right? We had double the assists and we had turnovers tonight, and that always spells for success. That's always going to give you success. So thank you guys for tuning in. That's it for a Bucking Spurs podcast. We got a tough schedule in front of us for this month. So Spurs Nation, hang in there. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment and share this episode down below. We're doing all right. We're turning a corner here, Spurs fans. You just got to stick with it. Keep getting better. Keep grinding it out. Keep grinding it out. All right. Good things. All good things. You can go to buckingspurs.com to find all of our content and more. We'll catch you on the next episode.